So, before we defeated Arthas, Kel'Thuzad kinda disappeared, and we've only just learned that he has been infiltrating the Shadowlands and building a reputation with the Jailer. It seems quite obvious that he is out for power and building a position for himself, but an interesting theory has been going around on Reddit about what if Arthas, long ago, sent Kel'Thuzad into the Shadowlands to be a fail-safe mechanism in order to save his soul, as he knew what was coming after he was defeated. And what if Kel'Thuzad's true allegiances don't align with the Jailer, but instead with Arthas, his old companion? Brought to you by Gamivo.com. Make sure to click the link in the description and get Shadowlands as well as game time at discounted prices. So, Kel'Thuzad is an incredibly interesting character to say the least, and previously I made quite a bold statement that he's one of the most accomplished human mages ever, and I still stand behind it. Seriously, just look at it this way. While he was a very powerful human and one of the key figures of the Hel'Ran ages in the past, this was literally nothing on a cosmological scale. Mortal mages are pretty much ants, like tiny ants compared to titans and the like. So he died, became one of the most powerful villains on Azeroth, and then went into the Shadowlands, nearly took over an entire realm and caused a gigantic ruse across most of the Shadowlands, becoming one of the closest accomplices of the Jailer. Despite obviously not being a good guy, I'd say that he is quite an accomplished human mage. Now, I'm guessing all of you already know his backstory, so I'm not going to go into it, but here is one really important thing to note. Kel'Thuzad was pretty much the main guy for the destruction of Lordaeron. He drove Arthas to his path, and when he became a Death Knight and a Lich King, he was pretty much his right hand and was responsible for expanding the Scourge as much as it managed to expand. I'd say in some regards, he was even more influential than the Lich King himself. However, the key here is that he was essentially the second in command to Arthas. Unlike most people, Kel'Thuzad was never tricked, mind-controlled, or anything of the sort, and in fact, he did everything with his own free will. He served the Lich King because it was in his interest, and he wanted to serve him. The reality is that if he really just wanted power, he could have easily betrayed Arthas, he could have turned into a Lich King himself, he could have turned a part of the Scourge into his own. He definitely had plenty of opportunities to do so, especially before Arthas reached the Frozen Throne, as at that point, he was weaker than ever. Now, Kel'Thuzad for the longest time was a mystery for like a decade. He was defeated early in Wrath of the Lich King. We know his phylactery was never found and that he was never permanently defeated. It was only in the newest expansion that we learned that he had ventured into the Shadowlands, aligned himself with the Jailer, and nearly took over Maldraxxus. However, the theory goes, what if Arthas was the one that sent him into the Shadowlands? As Arthas was a Lich King, and we know that he's now a tool of the Jailer, I feel like he knew quite a bit about the Shadowlands. This was not like a new concept for him. The Scourge definitely used Maldraxxus in order to create their armies and liches, so they were quite obviously connected. I'm guessing Arthas knew after his defeat his soul would either end up in Revendreth or the Maw, and that he was essentially doomed either way. So what if the Lich King sent Kel'Thuzad in order to establish a foothold there and to ultimately save his soul, sort of as a fail-safe mechanism? I gotta admit, this theory definitely does make quite a bit of sense. It would also explain why Arthas didn't really put in any effort in resurrecting Kel'Thuzad after Naxxramas, as we all knew that his phylactery wasn't taken and that he could return at any point in time. Additionally, this theory even makes more sense than the official one, because as far as we know, Kel'Thuzad was defeated and then he just decided to venture into the Shadowlands without letting the Scourge, Cult of the Dam, and Arthas know. Like, did he really do all of this just by his own hand? Like, was no one wondering where did this guy disappear to? I feel like there could definitely be a connection here between his ascent to the Shadowlands and Arthas and some part of his plan. Now, we did defeat him in Maldraxxus, and it was confirmed that he will be a boss in 9.1, but if we learned anything with Kel'Thuzad is that we can never really defeat this guy. Seriously, he was half undead, then died, then was resurrected, then defeated again in Northrend, only to be defeated again in the Shadowlands and to return once again. So I'd say despite him being a boss, it doesn't really mean that this will be his ultimate end. By now, we know that Arthas was and probably still is within them all, thrown there by Uther, but we don't know when are we actually going to see him. Blizzard hinted that in the raid in what is the main chamber of the jailer, we will see some old characters that we are sort of expecting, which I do expect to be Arthas, because they said that we'll be fighting Sylvanas and we will see all phases of her life, and I'd say Arthas was quite a critical character within her story. He's pretty much the one that created Sylvanas as a Banshee Queen. Now, while the first part of this theory does make sense to me, I do feel like it is a bit of a stretch that Kel'Thuzad did all this crazy manipulation stuff just for Arthas. I mean, sure, they seem like they were good buddies and all in Warcraft 3, but keep in mind, Kel'Thuzad is one power-hungry guy. In fact, it is exactly this characteristic that led him to his path, and it is what turned him into a Lich. I really don't think he's the type of a person to do all of this stuff for, like, what, friendship? I think the more likely theory is that Kel'Thuzad might actually turn even against the jailer, as he is quite a master of manipulation. It is also possible that he plans to help free the jailer in order to become some sort of an important lieutenant in the cosmological war, therefore raising his power levels from an undead Lich to that of nearly a titan. I feel like this would definitely fit his character quite a bit more. However, I gotta admit that this is quite an interesting theory though, that Arthas sent him preemptively into the Shadowlands to establish a foothold, and I feel like Arthas is going to make some sort of an appearance in the Shadowlands. I really don't know what to expect, but it would definitely be interesting to see the reunion of Kel'Thuzad and the former Lich King, this time within the Shadowlands. Thank you for watching. Check out what is going on with the Dreadlords in 9.1 by clicking on the screen, and also check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.